Hey, what's going on, folks? It's Larry with Packmasters Dog Training. I want to talk about keeping our dogs safe, especially our young dogs. Okay, I've talked about this many times. I'm pretty OCD when it comes to my dogs, especially the first year or two. I don't give my dogs a chance to get in trouble or harm themselves in any way, and I don't leave them outside alone to get into things they shouldn't. But let's talk about a couple of things here. And the reason I'm doing this is I got a call from a really good friend of mine this morning with some really bad news about one of their dogs. First thing I want to touch on is crating. Okay, I've talked about this many times, but I'm going to mention it again because I still get calls where people are struggling because they're not doing this. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got from a dog trainer was almost 25 years ago from the first dog trainer I ever worked with. Okay, he had tremendously well-behaved dogs, like really well-behaved dogs. And back then, that's all I cared about. I didn't care about all the fancy things we do today and all the obedience. I just didn't do it for years. I only cared about developing a really well-behaved dog. And when I asked him about that, how does he get his dog so well-behaved? The piece of advice he gave me is something, and I'm not saying this is what creates everything, but it's something that's never failed me and I always stuck to from that day. What he told me and what I tell my clients and what I do myself is my dogs are crated at night when we sleep until they are 1 year old, no matter how well trained they are. Yes, my dogs are housebroken and house trained and potty trained and crate trained, whatever you want to call it, very young. Okay, they're reliable, very young. With that being said, I don't give them an opportunity to make mistakes. I'm absolutely insane about it because I like to put in the hard work in the first few months, so I'm not fixing bad behaviors later on. The other piece of advice he gave me was his dogs, again, I do the same thing. My dogs are not left uncrated in the house when no one is home until they are 2 years old. That 2 year old mark is about where they're mature enough to where if you do everything right in those first 2 years, that's when they could usually be trusted and left alone in the house. Some people may never achieve that, but here's the thing. If you put in the work early and you don't allow the dogs to develop bad behaviors, bad habits, then my dogs, like I said, at 2 years old, and I have very high drive dogs, can be left alone without ever touching anything in the home. Okay, so I've never had something chewed up or a garbage can knocked over, none of that stuff, because it's not something that even crosses their mind because we developed the behavior we want instead of allowing bad behaviors, bad habits to develop. Okay, so that's really one of the best pieces of advice I ever got. So now let's go back to the subject of this little video here. It's really important for anyone who has a dog. Okay, anybody. I don't care what kind of trainer you are, what kind of dog you have. This is really important, folks. When we had Bruno, when he was a puppy, he was the worst puppy we ever had, right? He was a complete lunatic. I mean, he was really a handful. I wasn't home. I was away for work training. I was gone for 6 months. And I remember one time I got a call from my wife and she was just torn up. She was frantic. Almost had a really terrible accident. She put Bruno in the yard by himself to run around and drain some of his energy, which I don't do with young dogs anymore. And she had to run to the post office. She was going to be gone about 10 minutes. He was running around like a lunatic, and she said, you know what, instead of bringing him in, I'm going to leave him out there and let him enjoy himself for a while. So Stephanie left to go to the post office. She was gone less than 15 minutes. When she got home, what she found was pretty scary. Bruno got the cover off of our grill. He didn't only get the cover off of the grill, but he chewed a hole through it. He got his head through it, and trying to get his head out, he got it all twisted up around his neck, and he was choking himself out. Like when she got home, he was having trouble breathing. His tongue was hanging out. If she didn't come home when she did, he would have been dead. Freak accident, right? But these dogs can get into some crazy stuff. I don't think from that day on I ever left a young dog outside alone without supervision, and I still don't do it, okay? I'm always monitoring them. So today I get a call from a really good friend of mine. We used to be neighbors, and we both shared the love of dogs, and our families are tight. He's got a beautiful family, and you know, we were together for a long time, and dogs were a big part of our life. And he called me today, and he sounded terrible, and he was calling me because he wanted me to talk about this so other people don't go through it. He had a young dog, I think about 8 months, he said, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. And it's his daughter's dog, mainly, you know, his 19-year-old daughter. Hi, Abigail, miss you. Hope you're feeling okay. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for what you're going through, everything. And what had happened was they put the dog in a crate, like a lot of people do. That's what you're supposed to do with the young dog, right? And they left. Unfortunately, when he came home to a really terrible scene. The puppy had gotten out of the crate, which happens often, tore up the room, made a mess. Again, that's almost always going to happen if a young dog gets out of the crate. But unfortunately, what had happened was it found a bag of potato chips. And I guess in the process of trying to eat the potato chips, stuck its head in the bag and couldn't get its head out and suffocated and died. And that's how we found this young dog, which is horrible. I mean, absolutely horrible. Horrible way to die. Horrible thing for the family to come home to and find and go through. Terrible. Complete freak accident. That's no one's fault. They did what they were supposed to. They crated the puppy, right? It's terrible. But these things happen every day, guys. When young dogs get out of a crate or are left out, bad things can happen. I was fortunate, like with Mango, and what I told him this morning, when Mango was a puppy, we had her in a wire crate in the living room, but we were home. So we were sitting right in front of her, thank God. And me and my wife watched her take her paw, reach through the wire crate, and unlatch both latches on the wire crate and just come walking out. She did it right in front of us. We were shocked. So from that day on, she never went in a crate without at least one of these going on the crate. One of these clips. And I would put two on the crate. One on the top part of the door, one on the bottom part of the door. This way, if she did unlatch it, she couldn't get the door open with these clips on, okay? She did the same thing in one of the pens I have in my garage. It's a 4x4 pen, 6 feet high. I've never had a dog open it. I watched her go in there, take her paw, undo the latch, and come walking out. So same thing on there. I use bungee straps. Like, I fasten them very well. When I have a client's dog at my house, whether it's in a crate or a pen, I put extra security on the crate or pen because you have to prepare for what if, all right? So Mango, being as young as she was, I don't know, 8, 10, 12 weeks old, I don't remember what it was, if she got out of the crate at that age when we weren't home, she would have destroyed my house. And then we take a chance of her swallowing something that can kill her, or some kind of freak accident that happened to my buddy and his family today. So you have to take these precautions, guys. First of all, crating is imperative. You can't leave a young dog out in your home. A lot of people leave them in the yard while they're outside. Well, if they're that age, they're still going to get into stuff and find things you don't want them doing outside, guys. Crating is really important to create the behavior you want instead of fixing bad behaviors later on. So again, I crate my dogs at night when they sleep till they are 1 year old, no matter how well trained they are. They are not left loose in the house until they are 2 years old when we are not home. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got, and whatever you crate them in or put them in, make sure you put extra security on the crates or the pens or whatever they're in, because these dogs can get into things you would never imagine. Okay, guys? So this was a really terrible accident. My buddy thought I should talk about it so no one else has to go through it. And that's important. So everyone, enjoy your dogs. Keep them safe, guys. It's up to us. Peace.